Shalawam. This is Adasa Basayawan returning with the conclusion of this amazing study called The 3 Days of Darkness. And this is part 3 called The Twofold Judgment Conclusion. Now, I've done many studies, many studies over the last year or so. And this one, to me, is the most profound study that I've ever done. And I'll tell you why. The study started off with, in part 1, understanding darkness. I didn't just jump right into the 3 days of darkness like some people do. Let's get to the heart of the matter. I like to lay a foundation first so that you will understand the direction in which I'm leading you. We have to understand the definition of darkness. Otherwise, we can go astray from the truth. Because there are two kinds of darkness. All right? There are two kinds of darkness. There's a darkness where you are ignorant of the truth because you just don't know. That's chashak. But if Alahayam presents the truth to you and you reject the truth, and you keep rejecting the truth, you're led into another form of darkness because of rebellion. That rebellion is not from him, but it's a form of disobedience. In fact, it is disobedience that draws you into another arena, another dimension, spiritually speaking. Another kind of darkness where the devils dwell. Because Alahayam, for a season, he allows us to remain blind. We were born blind. We were born ignorant of the truth because of the rebellion of our forefathers. But there comes a time, and he has a time appointed, when he brings the light in the form of truth. And if we reject the light, then we will walk on in darkness, another kind of darkness that we are transferred over into. And that darkness is where the devils lay. That darkness keeps you ignorant of the truth. And that ignorance comes from that demon called Aspamara. Aspamara is the demon of ignorance. And what he does is he keeps feeding you deception and lies to keep you in the dark. And you might think, okay, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, they're speaking the same language that I'm speaking, so how can I be wrong? But since when does Alahayam use a multitude to perform his purpose? Never in the scriptures have we ever seen him use a multitude to carry out his plan. He's always dealt with the remnant, a small number. Why? Because we cannot claim the glory. We can't say it's because of our numbers or great number that this plan was successful. However, if it's a small number and it's a big job, we know it's not in our strength. We know it's not our power. And the glory goes to him. So if you're on a path and there are hundreds of thousands of people or tens of thousands of people speaking the same thing, that does not mean that what you're saying is correct. That does not mean that what you think or you believe is correct. And you know the truth is not a popular thing based on reading the first four books of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Yohanan. I know them all in Hebrew, in Oberai language, but I focus so much on Yohanan because I've been in the book of Revelation, so his name comes easily to mind. But the first four books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Yohanan. Yohanan is John. And we see Hamashiach, when he started preaching and teaching, was the truth popular with the people? As a matter of fact, there came a time where his disciples ran away from him when he started talking about eating his flesh and drinking his blood. Couldn't handle it. Can't handle the truth. And the reason why that is because he is the light. And if there's darkness in us, in the form of rebellion, in the form of ignorance from Asmamara, and not just plain ignorance because we just don't know, then we don't want to partake of the light. That's why I'm saying this is a deep study, and we will return to this again because there's always more to uncover as we go through the prophecies. Remember, the prophecies have been sealed for a very long time, and now Alahayam is unveiling, releasing the revelation of his prophecies. And because these are the end times. And we're the generation that he is given the revelation of his word, his truth, so that it could be a light to us in this world of darkness. We're dwelling in spiritual darkness. Look at all the things that are happening around us. It's the root of it all are these Satans who are bringing such a heavy, oppressive darkness in this world to control the people on this earth. To keep us in the dark, to keep us under their control and away from the light. But if you are a believer of Alahayam, you will walk in the light, and the darkness will have to move away from you. It does not comprehend the light. So we will, I am quite certain, be revisiting the 3 days of darkness in the future. So let's get started here. Let's see if my slide would come up. Yeah, there it is. Now the 3 days of darkness that are coming upon the world will serve two purposes. And we said that at the ending of part 2, just like the first time it came. Now the first time it was to plague Matzorayim, paralyzing them completely. And also, we wouldn't read this in the Bible, and this is where the Apocrypha comes in to give you a more understanding of these events that have taken place. So also, when Matzorayim was plagued with the darkness and they were paralyzed, this darkness that came to Matzorayim, speaking of Egypt, also plagued the rebels of Yashraal, bringing death to the stiff-necked Yashraal because they were the ones who did not want to leave in the Exodus. There were some in the camp of Yashraal, the 12 tribes in Goshen, that did not want to leave Matzorayim, even though they were in slavery and they were under heavy persecution. They did not want to leave. Why? Because despite how difficult life is, how they're being tormented, their babies are being killed. The food is still good. All right? The food is still good. The food is marvelous. So, no, I don't want to leave here. This is where my roots have been planted. Saint's grandpa, Yaakov, came here. So, why do I have to move? Take care of Pharaoh and his soldiers, his armies, so that we can continue to live in peace in Goshen. I mean, after all, it's a very fruitful land. Our brother, Yahweh, who was the governor, he gave us this land. It is ours. It doesn't matter if we're slaves, but it's ours. And that's how our people think even to this day. They're living in the UK. Where do you think the slave masters came from? The UK. And yet we have our brothers and sisters living in UK. We have them in America and in the Caribbean. That's where the trade, the slave trade, scattered our people in those areas. And of course, because travel became easier with the airplanes and the ships and all the other modes of transportation. So now our people are able to scatter farther afield. And yet, many of them decide to settle down in the lands of their captivity, in the lands where they're slaves, they were slaves, and not really seeking to go back to the land that is promised, that was promised to our forefathers and to us as well. We would rather stay in the lands of our captivity. Alahayam can change the situation for us there so that we can keep on living there. Alahayam does not want to do that. He never intended for us to spend eternity in the lands of our captivity. His plan has always been to regather his people to take them back to their land. We have a land because we are a people. We are a chosen people. And that's why we're hearing about our brethren there in North America, in places like Mississippi, and whatever states that they're living in, where the slave masters definitely used to persecute our people, used to hang them from the trees and do all manner of wickedness against them and the women, raping them and beating them, all kinds of things. And they're still living there to this day. And racism is on the rise again, never went away, but it's on the rise again. And there's no one there to deal with the problem because the powers that be that are in the high positions in the governments and wherever else in the court system, they don't care. And so our people, once again, are being singled out and being persecuted. And then we have the other people, our people still, trying to figure out, why does this keep happening to us? Well, hey, if you remain living in the land of your captivity and you don't come out, what do you expect is going to happen to you? They don't like us. They hate us. We need to come out of the lands of our captivity. We need to get ourselves in order, get our house in order, start selling off your things, start getting rid of your stuff, because our regathering is very soon. We can't take anything with us, so we might as well find a place to live that the persecution is very low. But if you're living in a place like Mississippi and in the Carolinas, where we know that our people have been persecuted there all these generations, and now it's coming again, it's happening again, then it serves you right. I don't feel sorry for any of our brethren that are still there being persecuted. How can anyone feel sorry for them? Because they're just like our forefathers here, who were being persecuted in Matsaraya, and when it was time for them to come out, they didn't want to leave. Do you feel sorry for those that were in Matsarayam that were struck down? How can you feel sorry for them? Because it's rebellion. Again, it goes back to the darkness. No matter how bad your life is in a place you want to stay on, because you're hoping that it will turn around for you. That is deception. And it's also rebellion. It is not Alahayam's desire to leave anyone behind. When it's time to regather his people, he will leave no one behind, including the rebels. They all had to come out or die there in that land. And this is speaking about those that were in Matsarayam back in the days of Masha. And as it was in the past, so it will be again in the future for both kingdoms. The southern kingdom first and then the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom is awakened. But many of our brethren are still sleeping because of the darkness. They want to marry out of their lineage. They want to marry other nations. They want to live like the other nations. So they are living in denial of who they are. And actually there's more than a few. Then there are many of our brethren that claim that they're awakened, but they're still submitting to pagan gods. They're still calling on Baal, calling the Heavenly Father Lord and God and Jesus. And even though they say, oh, I'm talking about Jesus of Nazareth. Now, does that make a difference that you're calling on a pagan God, but you want to differentiate it from who? Our Messiah, because he is of Nazareth? There were demons in Nazareth too. So I don't know who, again, deception, darkness. His name was never Jesus. Our Messiah's name was never Jesus. That name was fed to us by our slave masters because it is their God. Tammuz, Horus, Ra, whatever you want to call it. It is a sun god. This Jesus. And I did a study on that when I did the study on the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity. But I'm not going on into that again. I'm staying focused, right? I'm staying focused. So he's going to regather the southern kingdom first, and then the northern kingdom will be awakened to their identity, just like we were awakened to our identity, and they too will have to make some serious decisions. Okay, but we're not talking about the northern kingdom. This is focusing now on the southern kingdom, although they're going to come up later on. However, the 3 days of darkness will occur with the regathering of the southern kingdom, which I will explain as we go along. One thing that we have to understand, when Alahayam is ready to regather his people, the 12 tribes of Yashraal, he will not be leaving anyone behind. Even though he will be regathering them as 2 separate kingdoms, no one will be allowed to remain behind. We are a 2-kingdom people, and we have been since the division of the 12 tribes at the time of Shalawam, who is Solomon's son. Solomon's son received 2 tribes. The tribe that he was of, which is the tribe of Yahawada, our tribe, and then Banaya Mayam, which is Benjamin, And later on, half the tribe of Levi or Lewi joined to make it 2.5 tribes. Then you have the northern kingdom, which is made up of 9.5 tribes. And we have been enemies against each other. If you doubt me, go read the scriptures again for yourself. There's nowhere in the scriptures that we, after the division between the 12 actually, there's nowhere in the scriptures that we were 12 tribes again. We are one kingdom again, except when Hamashiach comes again for the second time to reign as king. That's when we will become one kingdom again in his hand. That's in Ezekiel chapter 37. We will become one kingdom in his hand. I've gone through that already. So all these people talking about 12 tribes going into the wilderness, and then we're going to be doing this and we're going to be doing that again. Darkness, aspamara, ignorance. You don't know what you're talking about. Read the scriptures for yourself and stop going along with the hype. Everyone's talking about these 12 tribes going into the wilderness or in luxury liners. In fact, though, you're going to in the luxury liners to go into the wilderness. Whole bunch of nonsense that people are talking. And there are actually people out there believing these foolish ones that are teaching this nonsense. What's wrong with our people? Like, can we think for ourselves? Can we just go read the scriptures and allow Ruach HaKadosh to show us his truth? Do we always have to continue on in darkness? This is darkness. And you're being led, the blind leading the blind. What do you think is going to happen to you in the end? You're going to fall. And you're going to fall in the wrong place. It's called the lake of fire. Eternal damnation, along with the ones who led you there. We need to wake up to reality. Stop following along with these foolish people. So he's not leaving anyone behind. And we have always been two separate kingdoms. Now they are either regathered to him or plagued and killed. So if the Hamashiach comes in the clouds at the ending of the 3 days of darkness, and you, in fact, you may not even realize it, but you might be already dead. But I'm going ahead of myself. Let me not say any more. It'll all come clear by the time you end this study. They're either regathered to him or plagued and killed. So that's what the choice we have. Either plagued and killed, or we are regathered to Alahayam. And when we're plagued and killed, those who are plagued and killed, they are condemned for all eternity. There's no second chance after this. That's it. He's given us all the opportunities right here, right now, to make informed decisions, to walk in the light. And if you insist on walking on in darkness because of ignorance, and you're claiming, well, we can't know everything here in the lands of our captivity. We have to wait for the wilderness. So you'll be waiting for a wilderness that will never happen. And then what? Because the wilderness is not for the southern kingdom. It is for this reason why Alahayam is long suffering with us, especially today, to give us all the opportunities we will need to return to him with all our hearts, to worship him, to obey all of his commandments and walk in them. So if we're walking in disobedience, we're walking in darkness. Doesn't matter how many people are with you. A lot of people are convinced because they might have a healthy subscribers list that, how can they be wrong? Because I'm in the triple digits here. Or I'm in the 6-figure digits. Or 6-digit figure. It's the other way around. Yeah, I'm over 100,000 subscribers. So how can I be wrong? I got people patting me on the back and saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a vision or I had a dream that confirmed what you're saying. You don't know these people from. You're not a fly on their wall to know who these people are. Yeah, I mean, anyone can say anything. And the devil will put a lot of stuff in people's minds and hearts to say whatever they have to say to convince you that you're on the right path and convince others at the same time. So another person reads, oh, wait, this person had a confirmation. So this got to be the truth. That's not how truth works, by the way. Ruach HaKodesh confirms. In fact, he brings revelation of his truth and he confirms it in the word. You don't need a man or a dream from a man to confirm what is spiritually derived. It came from Alahayam and he will confirm it himself. And you will know that it is the truth because of the path that you're on. It's not going to be an easy path. It's not going to be an easy path. Walking in the light is a very difficult path to walk on because of all the things that you have to let go of. You can't even try to figure it out yourself. But you are totally relying on Ruach HaKodesh to teach you, to reveal to you so that you can understand and believe. And then there comes a light that comes on within you that allows you to know, yes, this is the truth. Why? Because I am seeing the picture. I'm seeing the full picture. I am seeing the purpose and the plans of Alahayam. I'm seeing a clear path that he's laid out. And it's all connecting all the word, his prophecies together. Whereas the other way, you have to create that light. You got to create that doctrine to fit what you believe because it is darkness. And the Satans, they're not short on their part when it comes to giving you a little bit of deception to keep you on that path. And they'll show you, okay, this study was done by this person, and it goes hand in hand with that dream and that vision, just like the 3 days of darkness. But we'll get to that in a minute. In fact, though, we did get to that in part 2. When this woman, Jeheni, she had her vision, her and call it her prophecy when it was already done eons ago, thousands of years ago. But somehow she has a fresh prophecy of the 3 days of darkness. There's no such thing. It was already given to us. The first part of it was fulfilled. The second part to be fulfilled is coming. And then people are going to take that story of Jeheni, that so-called prediction of Jeheni, and they're going to run with it because they don't have the true revelation from Ruach HaKodesh. So they got to go and do research and go and dig up history, all kinds of histories, and then put it together to form their own little doctrine and call it their own prophecy and their own interpretation of whatever the prophecy is. Whatever it is that they had as a dream or a vision. All that is deception. When the Most High gives you a dream or a vision, he gives you the interpretation as well. Just like what he did with Dana Ya'al. And it all connects with the word, because the dreams and visions that Dana Ya'al had connected with the prophecies of Jeremiah. And then Yewakanan had his visions, and they all connected to Dana Ya'al. And I've done studies along that grain. But when you have a dream and a vision, and you have to go to an outsider like Jahani, who was a Catholic woman, who was called a mystic, and you have to draw from her or anyone like her who is not even of the lineage of Yaokab, then you are definitely in the darkness. Okay, and I leave that alone. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 25. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Alahayam, now will I bring again the captivity of Yaokab, and have mercy upon the whole house of Yashraal, and be jealous for my holy name. Now let me pause here and say, the whole house of Yashraal is not speaking of the 12 tribes of Yaokab. He's of Yashraal. He's speaking of the northern kingdom. All right? But the prophecies, the cautions, the warnings that were spoken through these prophets, for either, if it's directed to the northern kingdom, it was intended or is intended for the southern kingdom, and vice versa. So even though he's speaking to the northern kingdom, we, the southern kingdom, still have to heed this warning and this prophecy. Verse 26. After that they have borne their shame, they have carried their shame and all their trespasses, whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. So when our forefathers, the 12 tribes, were living in the land of Yashraal, and they were obeying Alahayam, there were no nations all around them that could come against them. They were too afraid of the 12 tribes of Yashraal, because they knew that they had someone bigger than them fighting for them. Verse 27. When I have brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, because when he brings out the northern kingdom, the whole world is going to see it. There will be no televisions. Oh no, because technology will be finished. But when he begin to bring them out in their armies, and he's bringing them out of Africa, so all these foolish ones that are fleeing into Africa, honestly, I don't understand our people. I really don't get our people. Some of our people are flying to Africa because they think Africa is our land. Africa is the land of the Hamites. All right? So you run there, and then what? He's gonna regather you and bring you out again? No, that's not gonna happen. Whoever runs to Africa, except if you are within the borders of Yashraal, the original Yashraal, you're doomed for destruction. You're doomed for destruction. Because the northern kingdom, the majority of our people are in Africa, and he's bringing them out of Africa into our land. When people don't study the word, in fact, you can't study if you're in darkness. If you're in the dark, you're going to be studying with your eyes closed. Your ears are going to be closed and your hearts are hardened. This is what darkness does. So the truth can't penetrate. The truth can't come in to show you how you're wrong. Even though you might hear someone speaking words, You might think, well, this person is not saying anything that I believe. How can I believe? Because I know, based on what others have said, that we are going to go to Africa. Africa is where Eden is. Africa is where Jerusalem is. All these different stupid ones that look at a map and see the word Jerusalem and think that's our land, thinks that's our city. When we never had a J in our language. That's the funny thing about it all. We don't have a J. Even what if, I mean, like, if the land, the city or the place that is called Jerusalem was called Yarowashalam, then maybe I might be a little curious. But the fact that they call it Jerusalem, an English name, and because you saw a map with all these different names that is connected to our people, and you think automatically that that is our land, you go ahead to your Jerusalem in South Africa or wherever it is that people are running to. You go ahead there. The Russians are heading out there too, by the way. And there's a reason why the Russians are coming out there, because they're going to kill every single one of y'all. Destroy y'all. The only people that will be secured for a while will be the Northern Kingdom. Now, any of the Southern Kingdom that go flying into South Africa and those other places, you're going to be destroyed. They're planning for them, you know. They're planning for them. Stay out of Africa. If you come to Africa, come to the part where it's connected to our border. It is part of our border. The border of Yashraal. You're safe within his borders. He said that. If you're going to come that far, come within the borders. Do not go into South Africa. Don't go anywhere else in Africa except within the borders. If you don't know what it is, go into Google. Sorry, is it Google? Yes. Go into Google and type in the borders of Israel, the original borders of Israel, and you'll see the outline of where Israel, they call it Israel, because if you type in Yashraal, you're not going to find it. But you'll see the original border where the 12 tribes settle on one side of Yarden, which is Jordan, and then on the other side. And even a portion of what they call South Sinai. There you will be safe. But if you go living somewhere else, okay, you're going to need a lot of luck to stay alive. And you're not going to stay alive because luck isn't going to save you. All right, enough of that. Let me move on. So he's going to bring them out of Africa in their armies, because that's how they settled. They settled in their tribes. And when he regathers them, he is going to regather them in their tribes, and he calls them armies or hosts. All right? And then when the world, remember the earth is going to be one landmass again because of the great earthquake. So people will know and see, and they'll be sending their little carrier pigeons and whatnot. Hey, these people are moving out. And they wouldn't be able to do anything about it, because this is the regathering of the Northern Kingdom by Alahayam himself. He is going to come down to do it himself like he did the first time. Came down in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And this is how he's going to lead the Northern Kingdom. Okay, let's go on. Verse 28. Then shall they know that I am Yahweh their Alahayam, who caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered them unto their own land, and have left none of them anymore there. So when he comes for the Northern Kingdom to gather them out of their lands, the lands where they've settled for many generations in Africa, he's not leaving not one of them behind. And so as he has said here in his prophecy, so it will be for the Southern Kingdom. Just like you see it happened with the 12 tribes in Goshen, he did not leave one person behind. Everyone had to come out. Why? Because the rebels that wanted to stay, he struck down. And we'll see that in a little while. Verse 29. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my ruach upon the house of Yashrael, said Yahweh Alahayam. Now, although this was a prophecy for the northern kingdom, the message is the same for the southern kingdom. That Alahayam will not be leaving anyone behind when he regathers the two kingdoms. It was the same message for our forefathers when he was getting ready to regather them from the house of bondage, that is Goshen, that is Matzarayam, Egypt. As it was before, so will it be again. The difference between the regathering of the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom will be the timing and how each kingdom will be regathered. The southern kingdom will be regathered first, and they will be taken in chariots from off the earth. Please see the study called The Chariots of Yashrael for clarity. The northern kingdom will be regathered and taken into the wilderness for their second exodus. I've also done a number of studies concerning this magnificent event and how it will be for them in the wilderness. The study is called The Second Exodus into the Wilderness and the Second Exodus of the Northern Kingdom according to the book of Revelation. Now, all these studies go into great detail concerning these two events that will soon occur. So, the 12 tribes are not going into the wilderness, only the Northern Kingdom. Please get that in your hearts and in your minds. So now we're going to see from the book of Yashar more information about when the darkness came upon Matzarayam. So this is Yashar, chapter 80. They call it Jasher, but it's Yashar, chapter 80, verse 36. Alahayam sent darkness on Matzarayam, that the whole land of Matzarayam and Pathros became dark for 3 days, so that a man could not see his hand when he lifted it up to his mouth. At that time, many of the people of Yashrael died, who had rebelled against Yahweh, and who would not listen to Masha and Ahawaran, that's Moses and Aaron, and believed not in them that Alahayam sent them. Now imagine, I'm sure these are the ones that cried the loudest, save us, we're being persecuted. And when Alahayam sent his deliverer, who is Masha, along with his brother Ahawaran, they're like, no, we're not going to believe you. We're not going to believe that Alahayam sent you. Why? Because the message that came was not the message they wanted to receive. They wanted Alahayam to come and deal with the Egyptians, Matzarayam, right there in the land, so that they, meaning these rebels of Yashrael, they can continue to live in Goshen. They had no intentions of leaving. They want Alahayam to come and fix the problem. But Alahayam never intended for his people to remain living in Goshen, because that is not their land. That was never our land. That was given to us even way, way back after the flood. After the flood, the 3 sons of Noach divided the land. Africa became Ham's portion of the land. The other side, going towards the north and going towards India, those other places, became Japheth, and the piece in the middle belonged to Shem. And Noach was pleased with the way how his 3 sons divided up the land, because the portion that came for Shem was the blessed portion. It was where the Garden of Eden was, and the Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, and there was another mountain that was there that came, I believe it's Mount Sion. But those three elements were there in that portion of land that came out for Shem. And Noach was pleased with it. And he made them swear that they weren't going to come and steal one another's lands. And guess who did what? Canaan came and stole much of Sham's land. That's why there were Canaanites living in our land. And that's why Alahayam drove them out later on. So originally, the land that the Canaanites were living on belonged to Sham. All right, let's go on. Verse 38. And who had said, we will not go forth from Masarayam because we will perish with hunger in a desolate wilderness. These were those who would not listen to the voice of Masha. And if you go to Psalms, I believe it's Psalm 78, they ask this question, can Alahayam furnish a table for us in the wilderness? These people were bold, weren't they? And rebellious. They didn't trust Alahayam to provide for them in the wilderness. And not only these ones, even the ones that came out. They were still rebels, but at least they left. They left the land. But every time there was an issue, they were short on water or food, they started complaining. If we were in Matsarayam, this wouldn't be happening. We would have leeks and cucumbers and melons and all these different food, fish pots, flesh pots, all manner of food, bread to the full. They always remembered Matsarayam, how good the food was. And they never remembered how persecuted they were. And that's the same thing with our people today. Have short-term memory loss. In fact, they just remember what makes their belly happy. Food. All they want is good food. Okay, verse 39. Yahweh plagued them in the 3 days of darkness. And Yashrael buried them in those days without Matsarayam knowing of them or rejoicing over them. So the 3 days of darkness was a cover for Alahayam to bring judgment and punishment against the rebels that did not want to leave. And while Matsarayam is being paralyzed where they can't even move, they can't even find their hands to put it to their mouth, so they didn't eat any food. They couldn't drink any water. So for 3 days, they were literally paralyzed wherever the darkness found them. We're going to read that in a little while. And during those 3 days of darkness, there was light in Goshen. So the houses of the 12 tribes of Yashrael had light. However, that did not stop Alahayam from destroying the rebels. And another thing that I want to add about this darkness, because there's some out there talking about getting wax candles and all this craziness, right? Thinking that a wax candle can do something against this darkness. When this darkness comes, it's going to envelop everything, including wax candle. The light from a wax candle, the light from your ceiling, the light from electricity, all things will be consumed with darkness. You can't even light the fire because the darkness will consume the fire. So if you're in the house, I know there's some talking about putting up black plastic bags at your windows because of the demons outside and all this craziness, right? Listen to me. There's nothing that you can do to keep that darkness from coming in. This darkness is going to cover everything and everyone except his chosen people, except the righteous remnant that he is coming to collect. They're the only ones that will have light. So the darkness was very great in Matzorayam, verse 40, for 3 days, and any person who was standing when the darkness came remained standing in his place. He that was sitting remained sitting, and he that was lying continued lying in the same state. He that was walking remained sitting on the ground in the same spot, can't move. And this thing happened to all Matzorayam until the darkness had passed away. So for 3 days they were stuck. Do you see anything about demonic activity happening here? What I am seeing and what I'm reading and understanding is that the darkness, chashak, was so heavy and so thick that it was felt, and it stopped them from moving. They couldn't even move to go and get food or get water to drink. They had, wherever the darkness found them, that's where they had to remain until the darkness left. Demonic activity going on here. The only thing that happened here that you can consider that Alahayam allowed the devils to strike down his people within restrictions, within limitations. Strike them down, because diseases and all kinds of stuff come from the devils. And when Alahayam give them permission, is him sending them to do the work for him. He released them to do the work, to strike down his people. All right. Now, these verses taken from the Apocrypha give us a deeper understanding about what took place in Goshen in the midst of the 12 tribes of Yashrael. As it always goes, not everyone will be interested in going into a place where they have to leave their comforts behind. That's why a lot of people are not going to believe in the chariots that are coming, because they're going to have to leave everything behind, even your pocketbook, your bank account, your mortgage, your house, your car, listen, you can't even bring shoes along with you, just the clothes on your back, and that's it. People want to pack like bundles and bundles and bundles of things to take with them. You're not going to be taking anything with you on these chariots, because where he's taken us, he already has everything provided for us. And the garments that we will be leaving in will be transformed into his garments by the time we get there. And we don't need shoes, because the ground that we'll be walking on will be holy ground. You don't need shoes. When you read the prophecy of Yohanan, when he had a vision of Hamashiach, was he wearing shoes? No, because the angels and Hamashiach, they don't need to wear shoes, because the ground that they walk upon is holy ground. And anyone who makes it into the chariots will be transformed so that they're able to walk on his holy ground. I already explained all these events that are going to take place. Not everyone will love Alahayam enough to give it all up for him in order to receive what he said he has waiting for us. First of all, not too many people believe. They don't believe in him, so how can they believe his promises? And another problem is that they don't want to give up what they have in this world. They've worked too hard for it. They've slaved too hard to get the things that they have, that they love so much. So they don't want to give it up. If they don't, listen, there are people out there that don't want to give up their lives in order to live by faith, take a chance to move to a place where he can provide for them and take care of them. A lot of people don't want to do that. They want proof. They want a sign. But we read or in the last lesson that the only sign that he's going to give is the sign of the Son of Man when he was 3 days in the heart of the earth. And he compared it to the 3 days that Jonah was in the belly of the whale. 3 days of darkness. That's the only sign he's going to give. And by the time you receive that sign, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. I already explained all of that in part 2. All right. And so it was for our forefathers. They could not believe that Alahayam would lead them into a wilderness because he had a land of milk and honey waiting for them. They didn't want to pass through the wilderness. It would have been easier for them, in their minds, that they leave Goshen with their luxuries and, well, it wasn't really luxuries, but good food, in other words. Good food to enter into the land promised, the land of promise, the land of milk and honey. We don't want to go through the difficulties to get there. All right. And the difficulties, the wilderness was supposed to be a period of time. It wasn't supposed to be long lived, but a period of time where their hearts would be prepared. They will put away all their pagan worship and their idols to receive Alahayam, to have him write the laws on their hearts himself. And it's the same thing that is happening with us today. Many of our people, if we were following in the footsteps of our forefathers to go into the wilderness, many of our people will still remain in their camps, unable to go up to the mountain to receive the law. Why? Because of the darkness in their hearts, rebellion. Because they have idolatry hidden in their hearts. What's that idolatry? Your job, your house, your car, your husband, your wife, your children, your education, the money you have in the bank that you've been saving for retirement. All these things are idols that your hands have created, so you can't give them up. You can't give up the things that you know that are tangible, that your hands have created, in exchange for something that you're not sure about. Because you can't see the vision, you can't see the promise. It's not before you right now. You just hear of this promise. You just hear of this inheritance. But the reason why you can't see the promise and you can't have a vision of what Alahayam has waiting for us is because you have no relationship with him. You're living in the darkness, so you can't see. Remember I told you that light helps you to see the path that he's laid out before you. You may not see too far ahead because he doesn't want us to see too far ahead sometimes. He wants us to keep trusting him. So he gives us enough light to see, to keep on believing. And that's sufficient. Some people want to see all the way to the very end of the road. But if you can't handle the little that he's given to us, how are you going to handle at the end of the road? How are you going to handle what he has waiting for us at the end of the road? As a matter of fact, he has already told us what he has waiting for us. But the issue here is that you can't see the connection between us where we are and how we're going to get there. That's the issue. And because you can't see the connection of where you are at, living under a system and working hard in order to make the money, to buy the things you want, to give it all up for something that you don't have to work for. The promise, the inheritance, is a clear divide between the two. And so you can't connect the two because you're so used to tangible things, you're not used to spiritual things. And even though the spiritual things are going to lead you to his physical bountiness, his physical prosperity, because he's going to give us physical things, you can't receive it. You can't receive it because there's a big gulf between where you are and where those things that he promised us are. But once he brings you on the path and you start shedding these things that you used to love, you start shedding the idols, the pagan worship. You start shedding, oh, I don't care about this house, I don't care about my job, all I want is Alahayam. And he starts to lead you on that path. And you start to see the promise brighter and brighter every day. You know why? Because he is giving you the revelation, which is his truth. And that truth is a light that shines on your path, on the path that he has you on, that leads you to the promise. It's very difficult for our people to let go. Very, very, very difficult. You know, another thing they say, well, we have been without for so long and now look, we've made it, or we have something. I don't want to have to give it up to be in a place where I was before. All right? But here's the situation. You might hold on to what you have, thinking that at least I know what I have. And you let go of the promise. And then at the end of the day, you lose it all. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. The enemy is going to come in and steal everything away from you. And after he's finished stealing everything away from you, the Most High is going to strike you down dead. You're going to lose it. Lose everything. You're not going to have an opportunity to live again. You're going to be condemned for all eternity. Because you despise your inheritance. Just like Esau. He despised his inheritance. He sold his inheritance for a bowl of peas. Now, despite the cruel slavery in Mitzrayim, they still had a good life, according to them, with the cucumbers and the leeks. That's all they ever talk about. It always comes back to choice, to choose our way or the way of Alahayam, to choose to worship idols or to worship him. Yet, making the right choices are not that difficult if we are walking in the light of Alahayam and not in darkness. No wonder the darkness came even in the lit homes of Yashraal and plagued the rebels of our forefathers who refused to leave Goshen. And it was during these 3 days of darkness that they were buried unknowingly by Mitzrayim. And as it was in the past, so will Alahayam cause our rebellious southern kingdom brethren who are refusing to put away their pagan ways to perish during this time. So Alahayam came even in the lit homes of Yashraal and destroyed the rebels there. You think they could escape him? They couldn't escape him. The darkness came and found them. Because what was in their hearts it was all rebellion. And even though the rest of the tribes, the 12 tribes, were just as rebellious, at least they left. At least they left. These were the ones that did not want to go. They wanted to stay behind. It is vitally important to understand that the only demonic activity taking place during these 3 days of darkness will be the plagues which the rebels will be afflicted by. Then Alahayam will strike them down dead, meaning the rebels, and cause the earth to open her mouth to swallow them up. Swallow them up. Let me repeat that again. Then the earth and cause the earth to open her mouth to swallow them up. Now, do you think that they're just going to automatically be struck down dead just like that? No, he's going to plague them first for the 3 days. This is their punishment. There are few that will die because of the portents in the heavens. When the darkness comes, it's going to bring such great fear that those that are weak of heart will die. They will die. And then there will be others that will be plagued. They will be plagued. And then Alahayam will strike them down dead. And then he will cause the earth to swallow them up, because it will never be known that the southern kingdom was plagued by Alahayam, that he destroyed them. He did it before, he will do it again. Now, no one is to gloat over our demise, even the rebels, when they are struck down. This darkness will be the perfect cover to carry out this final judgment and punishment on the southern kingdom. We're still being sifted up to this very point of time. Up to the point of time when we are getting ready to be regathered. We're still being sifted. And the darkness will come to prove what is in our hearts. There are some that will cower and try to hide from it. But remember, this darkness is going to be paralyzing. You can't move except for the ones who will have the light. The remnant, the ones that will be collected, they will not be affected by the darkness. And they will be the ones that will have light in their homes and be able to move around and eat and drink and rejoice, because they know that their redemption draws near. That's why he said, look up, for your redemption draws near. And they know now it's only a matter of time, 3 days, that this will happen. Now, remember in Yashar 80, when it was their brethren that buried them. But in this situation, because we are scattered far and wide, he's not going to ask, let's not ask. He's not going to cause anyone to go and bury these rebels. Remember, the 12 tribes were in one place together. So when he struck down the rebels, the other brethren went and buried them. In this case, we are scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. How is it even remotely possible for anyone to find and bury these rebels? No, not this time around. He's going to cause the earth to swallow them up. All right? When the earth begins to shake at the coming of Hamashiach, it will be at this time when all of the rebels will be swallowed up by the earth. Again, cover. Okay? This is the cover. The darkness that must precede Hamashiach's coming in the clouds will begin as a great darkness that will penetrate even within the homes, and there will be nothing that can be done to avoid it. No special candles, no window coverings, nothing will stop this darkness to be felt by almost everyone. The only people who will not be affected by the darkness will be the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. And these will be the ones that will be made ready to go in the chariots when they come. So let us review other prophecies to see how this event will take place. So this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then shall appear the sign, which is the portent, an unusual occurrence or miracle or wonder of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So this is going to be a worldwide event when Hamashiach comes in the clouds. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. Now, this will be the regathering of the southern kingdom, which will take place before the regathering of the northern kingdom. Notice that there will be darkness upon the face of the whole earth, the 3 days of darkness first. And there's nowhere written how long this darkness will last. At first glance, when reading the scripture, it sounds like an immediate appearance of Hamashiach in the clouds after all goes dark. But when we look deeper into other scriptures with this understanding about the 3 days of darkness, now we can have a better and clearer understanding about this end time event that is soon to take place. Once the final judgment of the southern kingdom is completed, then the light of Hamashiach will shine from one end of the heavens to the other, bringing even greater fear upon the earth. It is then that he will call for the trumpet to sound and send his angels to gather up his righteous remnant in chariots of fire. Now remember what it says here in Matthew chapter 24, 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. Now, if you have been following along in my Revelation series, the book of Revelation, I told you, according to the prophecy of Daniel, there are going to be 30 days in which the southern kingdom will see some increase of persecution for 30 days. All right. It will be at the ending of these 30 days, which will, let me go back to the scripture again. The tribulation of those days, he's speaking of the tribulation that the southern kingdom, he's not talking about great tribulation or anything. He's talking about the persecution that the southern kingdom will encounter just before they are regathered. And that's why he said immediately after the tribulation, because what these devils, you see, these devils know who we are to some degree. They can't really find us, but they know of who we are. They know that we are the 12 tribes of Yashraal. So it is Satan's desire, these Satans, using whatever systems that they have on the earth, and at this point of time, we have the UN, which is the United Nations, which I call the Beast Empire number 6. That is very active today. Please go and see my study called The Beast of the Book of, the Beast of the Book of Revelation. I believe that's what it's called. And it explains all the different beasts, the 8 beasts that are coming, the 8 empires that are coming. All right. And what I have shown you through the prophecies is that just before the southern kingdom is regathered, there will be great persecution that will break out against her from the United Nations. Even if it is one of their alphabet agencies, it is still the UN. And what I have been warning people is don't fight and don't grow fearful and submit because it's going to be short lived. Why it's going to be short lived is because Alahayam is going to send the darkness to stop these devils in their tracks. Because the tribulation that is coming against us, and I have a pretty good feeling that it has to do with the digital currency and the digital ID and all the other different things that they're trying to roll out that will cause many of our people to lose their incomes, to lose access to their money, unless they take the toxin, which is the serpent juice. And you're going to be without food and you're going to be without water. But it's not going to be for a very long time. When I say without food, it's not going to be 30 days without food. You're going to have some days where you don't have a meal, you don't have food. Until the Father sends a sparrow to feed you. You'll have water, but it's not going to be in great supply. But this is where the line is going to be drawn to separate the sheep from the goats. Will you surrender to the demands of these devils in order to continue living under their system, or are you going to hold on? You see, the Father is going to use this to sift us. This is the final sifting, the final shaking up to see what rises to the surface, if we're going to hold on by faith and trust in Him, or are we going to surrender to the system? And it's going to feel like it's never coming to an end, but it's going to be short-lived. Because the Heavenly Father, Abba, is going to send the darkness to paralyze these demons, these devils, these agents of Satan right in their tracks. He's going to paralyze them. And that's why he said immediately after the tribulation of those days, because it's going to be a sudden darkness that is going to descend on this earth to stop them, because this is the point, the appointed time in which he's sending his darkness to relieve his people, to preserve them, especially the righteous remnant. All right. Once I did that, okay, so let's look now at Luke 21, verse 25. I have to make sure that. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, yeah. So I like to make sure that I covered all of what I wanted to say and what I've read. Then he will call for his trumpet to sound. Okay. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. And there shall be signs, which will be portents again, in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. Why? Because he's going to blacken everything. He's going to take the light out. And upon the earth, distress, anxiety, anguish of nations. We're speaking of the tribes and Gentiles. With perplexity, they're unable to think logically. They're baffled. The sea and the waves roaring. Men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. So here we are reading that when you begin to see, when you see the darkness come, When you start to hear the waves roaring, the sea turbulent, and all the different things, the heavens are shaking. All right. When you start to see these things, know that your redemption is near, meaning that Hamashiach is coming for you, coming for us. Let's go down to verse 29 of the same book and chapter, Luke 21. And he spoke to them a parable. Behold, a fig tree and all trees. When you now when they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is now near at hand. So likewise, when you see these things come to pass, know you that the kingdom of heaven is near at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged, meaning weighed down, with surfeiting, excess, and drunkenness. Your senses are impaired, and cares of this life, and so that they come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Why is it going to be a snare, a trap? Because he's coming, it's going to happen suddenly. The darkness is going to happen suddenly. 1 minute, the sun will be shining, next minute, it's blackout. Everything is gone black. All right? It's going to be sudden. So you can't say, well, when that happens, then I'll know for sure this is the prophecy and then I'll believe. No, because at that point of time when it happens, your fate is sealed. So you need to believe before the darkness comes. You can't believe after the darkness comes. That's why he said, be careful that your hearts are not overcharged, meaning weighed down. You're concerned with living under the system, going to work, getting money so you can pay your mortgage and your bills and whatnot. That this day comes upon you unawares, because you have not prepared your heart to receive Alahayam Hamashiach when he comes. There is some preparation that we need to do before he comes in order for us to receive him, just like our forefathers were given 3 days. Hello? Our forefathers were given 3 days to prepare themselves so that they can go up to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to receive the law written on their hearts. 3 days. Although there wasn't 3 days of darkness, they were given 3 days to prepare. And yes, they washed their bodies, washed their clothes, and stayed away from their wives, but their hearts were still full of idolatry and darkness. So when these 3 days of darkness come, as soon as the darkness descends, it will be so sudden you will not have an opportunity to repent and believe, because your fate will be sealed. That's why he said, be careful. He said it comes as a snare for all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Verse 36, watch therefore and pray always, that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. Pray and watch. Right? Yes, we have to live and we have to eat. We have to go and get our groceries and do all these things, but we still can do those things, but focus our energies, or make sure that the majority of your energy is focused on watching and praying. All right? And when you pray, he leads you into the word to teach you, so that you will recognize the signs when they come. And you will not be the one caught unaware. He gave an example of the fig tree. You know when summer is near because it starts to put out leaves. He's going to give us signs, but only those that are in the light will recognize the signs. Whereas those that are walking on in darkness, they will carry on just like those who were carrying on in the days of Noah when he was building the ark. I'm sure they didn't recognize that there were clouds in the sky, getting ready to drop down some water. They were having too good a time. And so when the waters began to rise, even when the rain started, they didn't they didn't think anything about it. It's only when the waters began to rise and they realized, uh-oh, we're in trouble. That's when they were looking for help. But it's too late. And what happened to them? They were all destroyed. Same thing with our people. So count it. He said, pray and watch that you may be accounted worthy to escape the things that are coming to pass. Because if we encounter the darkness, then it means we're doomed for destruction. If you still have light, it means that you will be saved. You will be preserved and you will be taken. So count it worthy, or pray and watch to be accounted worthy, that you will have the light in your home when the darkness comes. Luke's account of this event gives more details as to what will be happening in the heavens and on the earth, letting us know that the sun, the moon, and stars will all be a fearful marvel, for they will go dark. The darkness will begin the plagues. Then the shaking of the heavens and the earth, the sea and waves roaring will do the rest, bringing great fear upon the inhabitants on the earth, especially the southern kingdom rebels. So don't think it's going to be silence. There's going to be silence on the earth. No, you're going to hear turbulence. These are the ones whose hearts will fail them because of this great fear. And to complete this fearful sight will be the coming of the Son of Man in the clouds in great power and glory. So the few that will be able to press on, even though they're plagued, when the Son of Man comes in the clouds in his great power and glory, that will be the final nail in their coffin, so to speak. That's it. They're done. They're dead. You won't be able to handle seeing him after that, because they're taking a battering. First, the fear of the darkness, the fear of the hearing the seas, the waves roaring, the shakings, all the different things that they will have to experience, and being plagued with whatever disease or whatever the Father would send. I don't need to take my mind there to try to find out what will happen to the rebels. All I want to make sure is that I'm not caught up with them. But it's not going to be an easy process for them in the darkness. Now, this is not going to happen to anyone else, just the rebels of the southern kingdom. They'll be struck. And not to mention the fear of it all. Anytime Alahayam comes down to the earth, there is always a shaking, and this shaking will also rattle the heavens so much that the stars will fall from the sky. And the sea roaring will be as a result. Those who have not died will try to hide themselves from him, but not even the dead will be able to hide from Hamashiach in this event. So now you have the others, the Gentiles and our northern kingdom brethren. Oh, yeah, they're going to try to hide. Why? Because of the darkness in their hearts. During the shaking of the earth, the dead brethren of the southern kingdom will be buried. The earth, that's the earth opening up in various locations and swallowing up, just like that, very suddenly. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention, I think it just gone straight from my head. Um, the the yes, it's gone out of my head what I was going to say. Okay, let me carry on. When this event of the 3 days of darkness takes place, it will be so sudden, and there will be many of our brethren who will not be prepared in their hearts. This event will come on them unawares, and this is the message for the southern kingdom alone. All right? These are the ones who are being warned today to get ready. Be prepared, otherwise, you will not make it into the kingdom of Alahayam, the kingdom of heaven. This is the time that we need to spend in worship of Alahayam, to put away our pagan worship. Stop calling on other gods. This is the time to make sure that your house is in order. All right? Because you're not going to have a chance after the fact. Once the darkness comes, you will not have an opportunity to do the above that I've just mentioned. All right? Let's look at Revelation chapter 14, verse 14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time is come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat upon the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. Now, there's a difference between when the Son of Man reaped the earth, and then when the other angel comes and reap the earth. Verse 17, and another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, who had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of Alahayam. So when these two harvests took place, or will take place, the first harvest was done by Hamashiach, and the second harvest was done by an angel, and he cast the harvest into the great winepress of the wrath of Alahayam. That is condemnation and destruction. All right? And the first harvest, they are being regathered to be with Hamashiach. Verse 20, and the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress. So not only are they cast into the winepress, but they are pressed until, and if you look at it in the form of grapes, if you want to compare them to grapes, he pressed them until the grape juice comes out. Even unto the horses' bridles by the space of 1,006 furlongs. And I did this in the book of Revelation. We did this as a study. I just want you to see the harvest, okay? Now the account of the regathering of the southern kingdom and the reaping of the rebels goes slightly differently from the other accounts of the regathering. In Yohannan's prophecy, it appears that Hamashiach reaped his righteous remnant first, then the rebels were reaped last. Whereas in the parable spoken by Hamashiach, the tares were reaped first, then the wheat last. What is very important to note that our Emmanuel was tampered with, yet we can still glean the truth through Ruach HaKodesh. Yes, they've tampered with our manual, our Bible. All right, they've tampered with it. They've moved verses around. They've taken things out. They've put things in. And that's why we need Ruach HaKodesh, because he is the spirit of truth, Ruach Ol Amath, to come in to show us what belongs to him and what does not. In this case, if they've moved things around, we still need to have a clear understanding of the sequence of events. That's why I've done the book of Revelation and I've revised it to put the verses and the chapters in their correct order, because they're out of order. Some people might think, well, who told you to do that? Well, the Most High told me to do that. I'm not going to do things of my own accord. First of all, I don't even have the brain capacity to do things like that, because it takes a lot of, well, it is a divinely written book. It's a prophecy. And you have to have understanding of the prophecy in order to put it in its correct order. Okay. So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Never ever throw out the baby with the bathwater. Allow Ruach HaKodesh to help you to sift through and put things in order. All right? So we know that they have tampered with our book. And we need to glean the truth through Ruach HaKodesh. The rebels will be harvested first and cast into the outer darkness, whereas the righteous will be regathered into the kingdom of Alahayam. We cannot allow the slight differences to throw us off the track of truth. This is Satan's plan to always keep us away from the truth, which is our light. He hates the light because it exposes his darkness, and he is rendered powerless over us. When we are walking in the light, he has no power over us. He only has power over us when we are walking in his darkness. We saw when our forefathers were struck down dead during the 3 days of darkness that they were buried during that time, so that Matzarayam would not know. In the same manner, our rebellious brethren will also be struck down during the 3 days of darkness coming. But this time around, Alahayam will cause the earth to swallow them up. And we also saw in the parables about 2 will be in the field, 2 will be in the bed, 1 taken, the other 1 left. 2 will be grinding at the mill, 1 will be taken and the other 1 left. And his disciples asked him, where are they going? He said, where the eagles be, so will the bodies be gathered. In other words, where the vultures are, that's where the bodies will be gathered. The dead bodies, because we know vultures go after dead bodies. Anytime you're in a wilderness somewhere and you see the vultures circling overhead, it's a dead body. All right? So the ones that were taken first in the parables of Hamashiach were the tares, when he explained the parable between the wheat and the tares. And then he went into another parable when he spoke about the 2. 2 will be walking, 2 will be in the field, 2 will be doing this, 2 in the bed. 1 will be taken, then the other 1 left. So he explained that the one that was taken, that was the tare, and they're going to be destroyed. All right, so the order of the reaping will be the rebels will be destroyed, and then Hamashiach will regather his righteous remnant. All right. Let me read over. In the same manner, our Rebellious brethren will also be struck down during the 3 days of darkness coming, but this time around, Alahayam will cause the earth to swallow them up. The righteous remnant will not be required to deal with their corpses, as they will be scattered wherever they will be living. It will be at this time that another phenomenon will take place where the earth will open her mouth and swallow them up. That's another miracle. That's another portent. All right. This was done before and it will be done again. So let's look at Madabar, the book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 28. And Masha said, hereby you shall know that Yahweh had sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of men, then Yahweh had not sent me. So, in other words, and this was the time when Korah and Abiram and one other person rose up, along with the 250 princes, the leaders in the camp. They rose up against Masha and Ahawaram. Who told you to be leader over us? You see, that's the problem with our people. They always want to be a leader, even though they're not chosen to lead. They don't have the qualifications to lead, but they want to be a leader because it adds to their pride, it adds to their sense of importance because they feel small and insignificant. And they figure the only way to feel important is to be a leader and mislead people. And these ones saw Masha being a leader and thought, well, who told you to be our leader? Even though Masha had to go through all the troubles that these people put him through, they were still jealous behind Masha and Ahawara. They wanted the notoriety. They wanted the fame. They wanted to feel like they're so important. So they came against Masha. And Masha said, okay, you know what? I am not coming to you, telling you anything from my mind, from me. Yahweh sent me to you. All right? I'm not telling you anything from my own mind. However, to prove to you, we're going to put this to the test. And Alahayam, Yahweh will be the judge. And he said, if you die natural death or even of old age, because you know, old age, if they're young now and you got to wait for old age for them to die, then you know that my leadership is false. You'll know that Yahweh did not send me. Verse 30. But if Yahweh make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth, and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they shall go down quick into the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked Yahweh. On one hand, if you die a natural death or die of old age, then I'm false. I'm a false leader. But if the earth opens her mouth right now and swallow not only them up, but everything that is associated with them, their wives, their children, their cattle, everything that their tents. If it swallows them up, then you know that Yahweh sent me. That was the test. Verse 31. And it came to pass, as he had made an ending of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder, meaning it parted, it opened up, that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. It happened before, it will happen again. The darkness that is coming upon the earth for the 3 days will be felt. It will be chashak. It will be a darkness that will be coming from Alahayam and not the Satans or devils. This darkness will be paralyzing to almost everyone except the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. Also note that even the fallen angels and the Nephilim spirits will also be paralyzed during these 3 days of darkness. The few evil spirits that will be used to stricken the rebels will be bound and blinded by Alahayam to prevent them from revealing what they had done. All that they do will be done in darkness. They will not see the result of their evil, as the darkness will hamper even them. No one will see what will be happening to the rebels of the southern kingdom to rejoice over them. The darkness will be the perfect cover for Alahayam to carry out his punishment against the rebels of the southern kingdom. Now we will consider this one other thing that will bring about an effect on the rest of the tribes on the earth, and that is the northern kingdom. As we know it right now, the northern kingdom is still asleep as to their true identity. This is intentional. They are in Hashak. When Alahayam triggered their awakening, it will come about as the result of the 3 days of darkness. After witnessing all the fantastic events, they will have no other choice than to question who they really are, and they will receive their answer. Because along with the darkness that will paralyze them and bring great fear, they're not going to die, but it will bring great fear upon them. And then to see that bright light and to see Hamashiach in the clouds and the southern kingdom, these Negroes being taken up in the chariots of fire, they're going to be asking a question. Who are these Negroes going up in the chariots? And Alahayam will answer them and tell them they're your brethren of the southern kingdom. You're the northern kingdom. All right. The next thing will be their choice to choose to turn away from their pagan ways or to continue on in darkness, which we know where this will lead them. Let us view a few more scriptures to see how all this is beautifully knitted together to bring about the complete regathering of the 12 tribes of Yashraal. Yasha'oyah chapter 60 verse 1. Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness, Hashak, shall cover the earth, and gross darkness, Orapal, the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. Now, who is he talking to? He's talking to the southern kingdom. Now, how do we know that it's the southern kingdom that he's speaking about? Let's go on to verse 3. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and the kings to the brightness, which is the light shining of your rising. All right. Now, these Gentiles are not speaking of the Gentile nations of non-Yashraal descent. These Gentiles are the northern kingdom. They're the ones that will come to the light. What is that light? The knowledge of who they are, the truth of Alahayam, the truth of the people of Alahayam, which is the southern kingdom, the truth of who they are, and the truth of Alahayam. It is the light that will be upon the southern kingdom when they leave, as they are leaving, that will draw the northern kingdom out of their Hashak. This event of the regathering of the southern kingdom, I've said this before in one of the studies that I've done, that what is going to trigger the northern kingdom to wake up will be seeing the southern kingdom being taken in the chariots, and they will ask a question, and by asking the question is drawing them to the light of the southern kingdom, the truth. And the kings here, speaking of the leaders in the northern kingdom. Verse 4, lift up your eyes round about and see, all they gather themselves together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from far. You're talking about the people, the the men and women. They're all gonna come. They're gonna be drawn to the truth because they're given a revelation of who they are. This is their awakening. And the light was what caused them to be awakened. The light is the truth. And your sons shall come from far, your daughters. Now, daughters here is personification for villages, shall be nursed, made firm, established, confirmed at your side. So this is the awakening of the people within the cities and the villages where they are spread in Africa. Many of them are in Africa. Some of them might be other places, but the greater majority of the Northern Kingdom are in Africa. And they're the ones that are going to lift up their eyes round about and they're going to see. It's almost like not only is there an awakening to their identity, but now they're awakened to the fact that they don't belong there. Many of them are going to feel that, okay, we don't belong here. And we need to figure this thing out because as they're being awakened, then what's happening will be the NWO, the New World Order, is going to rise up along with the anti-Messiah. And now, because there's a great reduction of Negroes, of let's call them blacks, because we have Africans and Edomites and Canaanites that look like us, they're going to be remaining. But there's going to be a great reduction of Negroes around the world. The darkness is not going to affect the Canaanites and the Edomites, all the ones that look like us. It's not going to affect them, just like it's not going to affect the Gentiles or the Northern Kingdom. This is strictly for the Southern Kingdom. But you're going to see a drastic reduction of the numbers of people. And they're not going to know that many of them were killed off, and the few that they see leaving, they're going to think that they all left. All right? And this will be the trigger for the Northern Kingdom, for them to wake up and get themselves ready to be regathered. But before they are regathered, they have to go through their period of time called the time of Yaakob's trouble. It's coming for the Northern Kingdom, not the Southern Kingdom. And this is when they're going to have to war for their survival. And this is where the beast is going to prevail against them. But they're still going to do a little damage to the beast. Going to destroy one of its heads. We already discussed that in previous studies. But what's going to shut down this war against them that could wipe them out? Because this NWO is going to be a technology-based empire. It's going to have eyes everywhere because of the technology. And that's why it's going to prevail against the Northern Kingdom. They're coming against our people with technology, and our people only have what? Staff and guns or whatever, basic weaponry to fight against these devils. And it's going to go on for 3.5 years, 42 months. And what's going to stop it right in its path suddenly will be the sixth seal, the great earthquake. Just like the 3 days of darkness stopped our persecution from the UN, what's going to stop the NWO's persecution of the Northern Kingdom will be the great earthquake. We're going to read that later on. Okay. The beginning of this prophecy is showing us exactly what will be happening in the end time event of the 3 days of darkness, the regathering of the southern kingdom, and the awakening of the northern kingdom. The rest of this prophecy shows us what will be happening to the northern kingdom as they are regathered into our land, Yasha'al. This is the amazing thing about these prophecies that are now coming alive, and we're being made aware of their meaning at this time. This also means that the time of our regathering is so close now, hence the quickening of the word of Alahayam. In Yasha'oya chapter 60, we see that there is a light, the glory of Alahayam that will be seen upon his people, but not before the darkness comes. Hashak and Orapal, the darkness that could be felt and the darkness like clouds, like thick clouds. It will be covering the entire earth and the inhabitants of the earth, with the exception of the righteous remnant of the northern kingdom, who will be prepared to be received in the chariots. The Gentiles are the northern kingdom lost in pagan religions, and until they repent and return to Alahayam with all their heart, they will remain as Gentiles. The northern kingdom will witness the light upon the southern kingdom as they will be received by Hamashiach. The entire world will see this event, and the world will be lit up with the glory of Hamashiach. It will be at this time that the northern kingdom will have to choose whether they will turn away from their pagan ways or not. So before, I wanted to say that the war, the NWO technology-based empire that will war against the northern kingdom, it will be their time of sifting, a time where the rebels amongst the northern kingdom will be killed off, along with the righteous ones who will be the martyrs. Just like the southern kingdom have martyrs waiting under the altar for their brethren to the prophecy to be fulfilled, where the number of the martyrs of the northern kingdom to be fulfilled as well, in order for Alahayam to move. Right? This is what's taking place. The northern kingdom will be prevailed against because the rebels will be killed off, the greater majority of them, and there's a number of martyrs that need to be killed as well to fulfill that prophecy that we saw in the fifth seal, when the martyrs, the ones that are under the altar waiting for Alahayam to avenge them on the earth. They were told to wait until the number of their brethren and their kinsmen be fulfilled. All right. So this is the reason why the northern kingdom have to go through the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of Yaakob's trouble, for these two reasons. All right. The ones that will be left after the great earthquake, where the NWO technology-based empire will be paralyzed. All the technology will be destroyed from off the face of this earth, and this beast empire will have to go underground. And a lot of things that he had established upon the earth will come to a sudden halt. And for a brief period of time, the northern kingdom will have a moment to take a breath, but not too long, because 45 days later will start their exodus into the wilderness. And even as they're in the wilderness, going through the wilderness, and I've covered this before, the remaining rebels will be sifted out until a certain period of time has passed. Then when all the rebels are gone from their midst, that's when they will enter. Well, they're going to travel for a little while longer, and then they will enter into their land, the land of Yasha'al, as the righteous remnant of the northern kingdom. And Alahayam is going to lead them all the way. Another thing that I want to add to that is that when he destroys the rebels from their midst in the wilderness, he will cause the rebels to flee. They will go, they will leave because of fear, because of desperation. They're looking for food or water because he's going to allow them to experience the very same things our forefathers experienced when they were in the wilderness: lack of water and lack of food. And then they're going to see all the different judgments happening around them, all the different the rest of the seals and the trumpet judgments. They're going to see it all. But as long as they remain with Alahayam, he will have them protected. But these ones, because of the darkness in their hearts that's been hiding in there, they're going to be wanting to preserve themselves and their families and what they have. So they're going to leave. They're going to say, well, this is not the way. So we're going to go. And the father is not going to stop them. Abba is going to let them go, because once they leave the group, they're the rebels that he wants to destroy. So he will destroy them away from the group, because the group have seen enough torment. They've seen their brethren being killed by the NWO, and some of them were killed by the great earthquake. So he will not let them see any more destruction, so to speak, when it comes to the brethren. So he's going to draw them away from the camp, the armies, so that they will flee into the wilderness on their own, and that's where he's going to destroy the rebels. Their numbers are going to dwindle, but don't forget the prophecy that he gave to Abraham, that he will cause his seed to multiply and be plentiful like the sand on the seashore and as the stars in heaven. And that prophecy must be fulfilled, and it will be fulfilled through the 1,000 years. When we are regathered in our land again, we will multiply. We will not be few. Okay. And that's a quick recap of some of the studies that I've done. Now, the Gentiles, okay, I think I read all of that. I think I read the entire world will see this event, and the world will be lit up with the glory of Hamashiach. Now, it will be at this time that the northern kingdom, I think I read that too. But let's read it again. It will be at this time that the northern kingdom will have to choose whether they will turn away from their pagan ways or not. This will be the point of no return for all of the northern kingdom brethren, either to be drawn to the light, the glory of Alahayam, or remain in the darkness. Now it will be their opportunity to receive the truth and walk in the truth, receive the light, so that hashak can move away from can be transformed into the light. Because if they reject the truth, if they reject the light, that hashak is going to be transformed into another kind of darkness, and hence you have the rebels that will flee. But this is not the time of their judgment as yet. This will be the time of their awakening to the reality of their true identity. So what I'm speaking of is Yasha'oya, the book of Isaiah chapter 60, when they are awakened to their true identity, is because they see, or they will see, the southern kingdom being taken in the church. They will see the glory upon these righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. The judgment will come later on. Joel chapter 2 verse 1, we've gone through this in a recent study. Blow you the trumpet in Shalawam and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh comes, for it is near at hand. And anytime you see the day of Yahweh, it's his day of judgment. He has a day of judgment for the southern kingdom, which will be just before the southern kingdom is taken. And that darkness comes because when he comes to bring judgment on the earth, it is called the day of Yahweh. And darkness always accompanies when he brings judgment. Verse 2, a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There has not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So this is when the northern kingdom sets out on their second exodus into the wilderness, and they will encounter this darkness as well. The darkness and the gloominess and the days of clouds and of thick darkness will be seen upon them. All right? The world will witness these people that will come out like nothing that they've ever seen before, because they're coming out like armies. If you read the rest of Joel chapter 2, you'll see that they're coming out in their armies. They're going to be marching like armies. We've covered that in the previous study. I believe it's the second Exodus of the northern kingdom according to the book of Revelation. Cover this in detail. But what I want you to see is that when the day of Yahweh comes for his people, he brings darkness and gloominess and days of clouds and of thick darkness. Why? Because that's where he dwells. That's where he dwells. And when he comes down, he's coming down to do two things. He's coming down to deal with his people, the righteous remnant, and the rebels. So to the rebels, it's going to be destruction, and to the righteous remnant, it will be for him to protect and preserve. And that's why when they come out, they will look like a great people. And they will never see anything like it. They have never seen anything like it before, and never will they see it again, because this is the last time. In fact, this is the first time that he's bringing out his people like great armies, and it will be the last time. Because when he brought out the 12 tribes, he brought them out together. And he brought them out, yes, like armies. But the world wasn't witnessing this. But this time around, the world is going to be witnessing these people that are coming out. And to their eyes, they're going to look like a mighty people. And it's going to be a fearful event for the nations around when they see the northern kingdom coming out, because they're coming out being led by Alahayam. That's why he called it the day of Yahweh, for it's near, and it's the day of darkness, because he's the one that is leading them out of these lands where they're dwelling in Africa. And because he is leading them, he's projecting an image of his people to be fearful, fearsome. You don't come near these people or else. And once they've left the lands where they've been dwelling in, and they're on their way to the land of Yashwa'al, they never go back that way again. This is the final exodus that our people will ever experience. And that's why he is going to be judging the people all the way until they get to a certain point when all the rebels are completely removed. And now they will live in comfort. They're going to live in a perpetual garden like the Garden of Odan. Completely oblivious of everything else that's going on around them, because they'll be walking in a perpetual garden after all the rebels are taken out of them. And I covered that again in that study that I mentioned just now. We have looked at this scripture many times in several studies, and here it is again. At the start of the second exodus of the northern kingdom, Alahayam will come down to lead them to the land of Yashwa'al. Whenever Alahayam comes down to the earth to deal with his people, he comes with his darkness, which is Chashak, and also at this time, Apalah is accompanying Chashak, which means calamity. That's what I'm saying. When he brings down his darkness is to do two things, all right? To lead his people and also to judge them. And those that are the rebels, the apala, the thick darkness, will bring calamity to their hearts, will bring calamity to them. It's what's going to drive them away from the group. This end time prophetic event is describing the judgment of Yahweh against the northern kingdom as they leave the lands of their sojourning and are now being regathered for their second exodus. While on their exodus, the remaining rebels will be purged out from amongst them. This event will be noticed by everyone on the earth, especially seeing that it will occur after the great war and the great earthquake. To see the people marching, sorry, that was supposed to be marching, not marking. To see the people marching in their armies will be a sight to behold, and it will bring fear upon the inhabitants on the earth. In conclusion, the 3 days of darkness will be occurring as a precursor to the regathering of the southern kingdom. It will be a time of judgment and punishment for those who are in rebellion against Alahayam. Not one of the southern kingdom brethren will be left behind because Yahweh is cleaning house. Anyone, and I'm speaking of the southern kingdom only, who is not sealed with his light, which is his glory, when the darkness descends, will be destroyed. When the light on the earth returns after we're gone, there will be a significant number of Negroes missing, and it will be assumed that they all left. Only Alahayam and his righteous remnant will know what had befallen these rebels. What had fallen upon these rebels. Alahayam has sealed his prophecies for the end times because the time of the end is near at hand. But as I have said before in another study, there will be an escalation of persecution for the southern kingdom, and it will be a terrible time for us in the coming future. Everything is changing at an alarming rate. Soon it will be very difficult to live day by day because of the coming next outbreak and all the mandates that will come with it. Then there is the changeover of physical money to digital, the digital ID, and much, 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 much more. To live on the earth will call for submission to the beast, and many of our people will comply because they cannot imagine not having a job to pay their bills. They can't imagine that Alahayam is able to furnish a table for them in their wilderness. And when I say wilderness, I'm not talking about like a desert place. I'm talking about their wilderness, meaning their time of need. But now I come with a stern warning. Our length of time of persecution will be very short, no longer than a month, about 30 days at the most. This was all calculated according to the prophecy of Danayal. We are told to keep our eyes looking up, for our redemption draws nearer and nearer, especially when we begin to see these things taking place. This persecution is all part of the judgment of Alahayam to prove what is in our hearts, because those that are still in darkness, apala, calamity, will submit to the provocation and lose their souls. So they're no longer in chashak, which is obscurity because you don't know, but that chashak has been transformed because of rebellion. You're now in the realm of the devils where you are experiencing their darkness, where you're being ignorant of the truth because you reject the truth. All right? So, because those that are still in darkness, apalak, or calamity will submit to the provocation and lose their souls. But those who remain faithful to Alahayam, walking in his light, will be preserved. Alahayam will send his 3 days of darkness to paralyze these beasts and their earthly agents, halting them dead in their tracks. And once these 3 days are completed, then Hamashiach will come in his glory to regather the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom. This plan of action by Alahayam is similar for the northern kingdom when it is time for their second exodus. After the southern kingdom is taken, then the beast empire will arise along with its emperor, which is the false prophet. These will make war with the northern kingdom now that they have been awakened. And like the southern kingdom, if they remain faithful to Alahayam, he will also stop these beasts dead in their tracks with the great earthquake. All their technology that they depended on will be, or let me reread that again. All their technology that they will depend on will be destroyed, and these beasts will have to go underground for a while to regroup. So the false prophet and the beast empire, which is the NWO, technology base, but no more technology. In the meantime, the northern kingdom can breathe a small sigh of relief, but not for long, as their judgment will continue for a little while longer. I have covered this in many studies which I have mentioned earlier. My encouragement for all my brethren, whether the southern kingdom or the northern kingdom, you must walk in the light. The darkness that was upon us, causing us to be ignorant of the truth, is no longer acceptable to Alahayam. If you remain in ignorance, you will be led into calamity and eventually destruction. We are without excuse because Alahayam have done all that he can to ensure that we walk, because Alahayam have done all that he can to ensure that we have access to his truth, but only on his terms. If we continue to resist his truth, resist his light, to resist him, resist his Ruach HaKadash, his Ruach Kadash, then we will perish. Because we have no other way to find the path to eternal life. In this last scripture, Luke gives us more clarity about the lesson about the light versus the darkness as continued on from Matthew chapter 6 verse 22 to 23. So this is Luke chapter 11, chapter 36. If your whole body therefore be full of light, having no part dark, the whole shall be full of light, as when the bright shining of a candle gives you light. So in the previous study, part 2 of this study, we looked at the eye being single, and the eye is what he's speaking of is the mind. If the mind is evil, then the whole body will be evil. But if your eye is sound, without flaw or defect, then your whole body will be the same way. So Luke carried on by explaining to us that if your whole body therefore be full of light, having no part of darkness, the whole shall be full of light. And when the bright shining of a candle gives you light. So if you're in a dark room and you bring a candle in the room, the light shines in the whole room and the whole room is filled with light. It's the same thing when our mind has truth in it. When the truth is revealed to us, it comes on like a light in our minds. And that light shines in our entire body. It shines in our minds. It shines in our hearts. And not only that, then our actions will reflect the light of Alahayam. And that's why when people have evil thoughts, it descends into the heart. Sometimes it starts in the heart because of the idolatry hidden there, then it moves up to the mind, and then their actions will be that of evil. So that's the ending of part 3, and this is the ending of this study. It's an amazing study. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it spoke to your heart. I hope with all my heart that it turned on a light for you, and that Ruach HaKadosh revealed your portion of truth while you're listening to this lesson, while you're going through this lesson, because I'm telling you, this is so important for us today, because all the things that we're seeing happening amongst our brethren, the explanation for it comes down to darkness. They reject Hamashiach, they reject the truth, and so they are plunged into wicked darkness, evil darkness. Someone tells them, stop calling on these pagan gods. Who are you to tell me? You're being religious. He knows my heart. All these things that they will say to you, instead of saying, thank you for helping me to find my path. Thank you for telling me the truth. But immediately they want to reject it because the darkness speaks to them to tell them that that person is telling them lies. And who are they to tell you anything? You're the person that is supposed to be the teacher or the preacher or what have you. Who are they to tell you anything? And this is the issue with many, many people. And that's why he said only a remnant will be saved. This is the reason why. Only a remnant can be saved because of the evil in our hearts, the evil that we refuse to take care of because of pride, because of deception, because of ignorance. All right? So that's the ending. I am sure I will be revisiting the 3 days of darkness as he gives me more revelation. I will bring it to you, because this isn't just for me. This is to help all of the brethren if they will receive it. All right? The Barayam, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. This is the blessing for Yashraal. Yabarakak Yahweh, wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh panayo alayak wa yasham lak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And I say, Shalawam, Shalawam. All praises to the Most High. Abba Yah.